of division. Now let's give them what they want: a strengthened Scotland and a strengthened United Kingdom.
Pete Wishart.
Very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and it seems a curious pleasure to be speaking in this debate this evening. Just when we thought that the House was going to adjourn early for the summer recess to help out and assist our beleaguered Prime Minister, here we find ourselves here debating the Union. As the UK faces an unprecedented crisis with a rudderless government, with a leadership in crisis, with a divided party about to face the Brexit precipice, the one and most important thing that they can think to debate on the day before we adjourn for Parliament is their union. Now, I'm just wondering what businesses in Scotland are thinking about this. I'm just wondering what EU nationals who are worried about the future are thinking about this. Academic institutions, hard-pressed families who see such a massive reduction in their household income because of their Brexit, what they will make of this obsession of these Conservatives to discuss this the day before we adjourn for the long summer holiday. I'll make a bit of progress and I'll give way to go on there.
The honourable gentleman for giving way on that point, because it's very important. He's criticising the UK Government for having a debate about strengthening the Union. The Scottish National Party have had two-party debates in this term. Their last one was about the claim of right. Why didn't his party choose European topics to discuss when they had the opportunity?
Great point. Tell you what we'll do, right? We'll try and see if we could help them out with this question, with this issue about strengthening. Because you know me, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'll try as much as possible to be helpful in these debates. So what I'm going to do, and we'll see how helpful this might be to the honourable gentleman opposite. Let's look at a whole range of issues just now, and let's see if we'll put them into the strengthening of the Union column, or maybe even perhaps the diminishing and the weakening of the Union column. Let's start with Brexit. Let's see how we'll get on with that one. Now, are the way that this is the... And the honourable gentleman's chuntering away. This is what they do, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now, this is what... Can I take the honourable gentleman over there, right? The Scottish people are watching this debate. They are seeing the honourable gentleman there chuntering, heckling and shouting away. What they're not is impressed with the honourable gentleman behaving in such a way.
It's not a football game.
Grateful, Madam Deputy Speaker, for the point of order. The honourable gentleman is criticising me for apparently chuntering. However, the point is, I made a question to the honourable gentleman 2 minutes ago, which he's not answered, and I think it would be respectful for this Parliament to answer that point, rather than chuntering away through his speech.
I really do want to emphasise again that using points of order just to try to get interventions about the debate on the record, and the honourable gentleman was guilty earlier. So I think we really do need to stop it, because it's not fair on others. Lots of people want to speak, and it's not the way we ought to be having these debates. Pete Wishart.
Because the people of Scotland are watching, and what they're observing is something that they don't particularly like. And sometimes I wish the cameras would almost swing around when they're at their height of their heckling and shouting, just to see how Scottish Conservatives behave in this Parliament. But let's get back to the debate if we can, Madam Deputy Speaker, because what we need to do is to let's look at a number of issues and let's help them assess whether it's helping to strengthen the Union. Now, is the way that this government is so consensually, deftly in negotiating this Brexit process helping to strengthen the Union? I would think that maybe it's a bit of a hard, challenging question, because what we have is a Scotland who voted 62 to 38% against this mad, chaotic Brexit, who in increasing numbers are deciding that they want absolutely nothing to do with this. So some may say that this clueless, chaotic and delusional approach to this, the most significant constitutional change that Scotland has faced since the war, may not necessarily go into the credit column in the strengthening of the Union debate.
Thank you.
So let's look at where we are when we come to looking at Brexit. On the Brexit MadCon scale, we are now at MadCon 10. A no-deal Brexit has now moved up from being possible to being likely. So what does that therefore mean for Scotland? Well, according to civil servants of a range right across Whitehall, the port of Dover will collapse on day one as Kent and the whole of the south-east of England becomes one big lorry park. Supermarkets in Scotland will run out of food within a couple of days, and hospitals will run out of medicines within 2 weeks. The UK government, for goodness sake, are even preparing to issue 70 technical notices to families and businesses in the event of a no-deal Brexit. Now, we had a little joke about can openers, but the government are advising families to stock up with canned food. They're telling businesses to prepare for a sudden exodus of EU nationals. That is what the UK government are saying to hard-pressed families in Scotland just now. And that's before we even get into air travel, holidays by the sea, and mobile phone roaming. But it's Scotland that will be hit the hardest economically by what they are planning with their no-deal hard Brexit. Because not only would we be having conditions akin to a state of emergency, Scotland's economy could lose up to £10 billion a year, a fall of 5% of its GDP, and it could see real household incomes fall by 9.6%, £2,236 per head for each family in Scotland. Now, there might be some people who will say all of these things will help to strengthen their union. But can I offer the counter-contention? Because when people in Scotland get the opportunity to weigh up their constitutional options, they could choose this chaotic cluelessness with these Tories, or they could decide that they want to manage their own affairs themselves. And I've got a good idea about what the Scottish people will decide and conclude with that. Now let's look at another example of what they're doing, and let's assess the strengthening of the union qualities to it. And it's what the honourable gentlemen over there in their party are doing to our national parliament, the power grab. Maybe there's another cunning ruse to strengthen their union, to make the people of Scotland fall in love with the UK all over again. See, devolution has been on a seamless trajectory since 1999. I've been in this Parliament since 2001. I've seen 3 Scotland Acts, all of them giving significant new powers to our national Parliament. That's all ended now with their Brexit, because for the first time, devolution has been stopped and has started to be reversed. The reserved models arrangement in the Scottish Parliament has served it so well. It's been the founding principle and the thing that has been able to guide devolution through the last 2 decades. The Conservative government have decided that's enough, and they're not prepared to see that any further. Now, the power grab, they sometimes misunderstand the power grab, and I'm quite surprised I've not had them all say what powers are being grabbed from the Scottish Parliament. We've never said that any powers are going to get taken from the Scottish Parliament. Right, okay, right, now I've got their attention. Let me tell them how the power grab works, right? There are powers returning from Europe. The reserved powers, according to Schedule 5 of the Scotland Act 1998, should go to the Westminster Parliament. Powers in devolved areas should then go to the devolved legislatures. Now, what's happened is all the reserved powers are going back to the UK Parliament, but the devolved powers have been grabbed and given to this House. That is how it is called a power grab, because powers that have been given to the Scottish Parliament have been grabbed by this government. Now, I hope that helps them out understand properly what's happening. I'll give way to the honourable gentleman.
Will you not accept what he's describing is a power release from Brussels to Scotland rather than a power grab?
I've never said anything about the fact that there's no more powers coming back to the UK. The point is that powers that rightly reside in his Parliament and my Parliament have been grabbed by the UK government, and they're now going to be resting in Westminster and not in our devolved assemblies. Now, this is really, really important, because our parliaments, the honourable gentlemen's in the Parliament that I have in my nation, depends on this reserved power model, and if that is broken, devolution is broken. And that's what they have started to do, is to muck about with the founding principles of our Parliament, and the Scottish people are watching it. They're looking at what they are doing, and they are not impressed, and it falls in line with what they do with the Sewell Convention about taking legitimate decisions of the Scottish Parliament to the Supreme Court to be challenged and possibly overturned. Now, people might say that all helps to strengthen the union. They might be saying, yeah, that's a very clever and cunning ruse by the Conservatives to get us back on board with the union. But I would suggest, once again, Madam Deputy Speaker, that what it's possibly doing is undermining their union, and the power grab goes very much into the weakening of the union column. I've not got time time anymore to take any more interventions. Now I'm going to come to the honourable gentleman. I might give way to one or two of them in this. Are they here in this Parliament helping to strengthen or to weaken the Union? Now, they came down with 29% of the vote. Ruth Davids, that opposes a second referendum party, did relatively well in Scotland. They've lost 5 percentage points in the course of the past year. Now, their constituents are watching them whine on about a parliament and a government 400 miles away. They are sick and tired of being represented by people who could care less about their duties and functions in this House, but everything about a parliament that they can no longer question, and that is having an impact on what they are doing. Now, we could get into evil, Madam Deputy Speaker, strengthen or weaken. Well, there's a hard one. We could also get into issues about the £1 billion that they were able to secure, that they've not been able to get a single penny from, that they're going to go. But let's just sum up and look where we are in terms of the wider debate. Because if we look across the dividing range of constitutional issues, what we find when the people of Scotland are tested in opinion polls is that independence now stands at 47%, 2 percentage points up from the very impressive gains that we had in 2014. So we are on a journey, and we're on very much of all this. Independence remains more or less around what we had in 2014, and we're not even campaigning for independence for this. Now, the defining feature in all of this is going to be their Brexit. It's going to be their hard Brexit and how the Scottish people start to assess. Scotland is currently tethered to the HMS Brexitania, and it's heading full speed for the biggest iceberg ever encountered in political history. But unlike the real Titanic, this HMS Brexitania is hurtling towards its iceberg at full speed, in the full knowledge that it will sink the ship and all the souls on board. But for Scotland, there are life rafts attached to this doomed and stricken liner, and they are marked independence. All we need to do in Scotland is to clamber aboard, get them off that vessel as quickly as possible, and row towards the shores of independence, security and sanity.